So this is a philosophy of art video. It's not going to be academic. It's going to be more like one of my digression videos. Welcome to Storytime. So it's going to be a little bit about my favorite movie, a little bit about my brother, and a little bit about my general shenanigans and how many stupid things I do. Because if you add them all up, it doesn't look good. So for those of you not familiar with the story, it's fairly interesting and there's a lot of components to it. So a lot of my students used to ask me, "You don't look like it, but are you gay?" No, that's not that is what they asked me, but they also said, "What's your favorite movie?" And I would say Fight Club, maybe. But I would also say Sideways, and then I kind of morphed into always saying Sideways. So Sideways is directed by Alexander Payne, who directed a movie after Sideways, which was terrible. I'm not going to go into it, but he did direct Sideways, and what I'm about to tell you should help you understand that he should get the credit for it. It's based on a book by Rex Pickett. If you ever look him up, you ever watch videos, oh, it's not good. It's not good. So, funny story, side note, on with Fight Club, I actually met Chuck Palahniuk, and I asked him. He gave me a severed hand with blood all over it. Don't ask me why. I still have it today. And when he did that, he said, "Do you have any questions for me? Because I'm so great." And I said, "Yeah, did you intentionally put all the Freud stuff in the film?" And he's like, "Oh, that's not me. That's Fincher." What he meant was he was the book and Fincher was the movie, and the two were very different, and I learned quickly. So I read the first page of Fight Club, the book, and was embarrassed. Um, but it's really a well-crafted and deeper movie, probably because of, no doubt, because of David Fincher. So Sideways, same story. There's a quote from Reddit. This is actually, unfortunately, one of those rare instances where the movie is a much better version of a much better version than the book, talking about Rex Pickett's novel, and goes on and on about how the movie worked and the book didn't. He was actually a really good review. He broke down the book and the problems with the book, and I read the first page again online and laughed. It was so bad. I can actually read the first line to you. This is the book Sideways, written by Rex Pickett. The sun poured bright parallelograms of mote swirling light. That's it. I'm done. If you're not Nabokov, get off the flower wagon. Like, parallelogram worked for me, but the sun poured bright parallelograms of mote swirling light. If you're going to get that flowery and it's not 1520, you're going to have to dig yourself out of it. And I'm sure he doesn't, and I hate it. And so my brother and I watched the movie Sideways multiple times. He was already a wine guy. I wasn't. I can't drink wine. Doctor said my liver's not very well adapted to alcohol. Probably better. Otherwise, I'd be Charles Bukowski. So we both watched the movie a bunch of times, and we decided, we haven't been anywhere in a while, let's go follow the course of the film where it was filmed. So we flew to Napa. First problem. So the movie was about the Santa Barbara wine region, not Napa. So we get to Napa, we think we're in the right place. And we end up at a winery called Pine Ridge on Silverado Trail. And it's a really cool, kind of smaller winery with really good cabs from different, there's 8 wine regions within Napa, and it's from, they pull from different ones. My favorite was Stag's Leap, Cab 2001. And as as it would happen with me and my brother, and as it would happen trying to act out the movie Sideways in the wrong place, we met one of the wine chicks, the people that worked the wine tasting room, and she came back with us after she got off to our hotel in Napa. We didn't know you weren't supposed to stay in Napa, that it was a ghetto. We all got in the hot tub. My brother and I fought over her for like 2 hours. It was like, do you want the weird philosophy dude that looks like Ducky from Pretty in Pink? That's me. Or do you want Brad Pitt? My brother looks like Brad Pitt, but he's smaller. Brad Pitt's, I think, my height. But she ended up with me. Some girls have bad taste. And it's kind of a different story at that point. But I remember having to sneak around the hot tub in the hotel so that I wouldn't get in trouble with my brother, because I had to lie to him and say that nothing really happened. And then the girl kept trying to manipulate and shenanigan me. So it was really a shit show. And we had been drinking terrible wine all day because we went to terrible wineries. And Pine Ridge was good, but some of the other ones were bad. So the funny part is the girl said to us, tomorrow, if you really want to do sideways, go to smaller wineries. She named a couple of boutique wineries, and she said Heights. So we went to Heights the next day. They open, 11 o'clock in the morning, whatever. We woke up, drove to Heights, which is, I think, on 29 on the main road. It might be on Silverado Trail. It was in a weird spot, and it was a weird winery. It was smaller, but not smaller at the same time. So we went there, and my brother talks his way into anything. Talks his way into girls, talks his way into trouble, talks his way out of trouble. And he talked himself into the back of the winery. We met the manager. My brother shook hands with him, said that, I don't know what my brother was talking about. Something about him, I don't know, being, a sommelier. And the guy was like, well, next time you come, talk to me. I'll get you one of our reserve bottles, gave him his business card, blah, blah, blah. So then we looked on our list that the girl had given us, and we went to a boutique winery. This is where the story gets funny and goes downhill. This is where the story gets bad. And if anyone that knows me or my brother, or there's a couple other guys in this trip, it's never good. It's always a bad combination of bad intentions, because there's never good ones. Oh yeah, the Vegas trip. There's some Vegas trips that are weird, but let's just stick with us in Napa thinking we're in the movie Sideways. So we got out the piece of paper, and with this really, really small winery. I mean, we just never heard of it. So she was like, you got to go to these places. This is where the better wine is. So we went there, and it was someone's house. And then in the back of their house, they had like a barn with like straw, and it had like the little barn thing at the top, the little coop. No, that's chickens. So we went in there, and they had like a little winemaking thing. They had the barrels, and they had the big wine cask thing, and they had equipment. And so there was only like two guys. There wasn't a tasting room. There was like two guys, and they were like, we really want to, show you the stuff. And it was like four of us. So my brother takes the main guy aside, and he says, I'm just letting you know, I know how the wine thing works in Napa, the kind of between winery, unknown secret stuff. I'm just letting you know I'm the manager at Heights Winery. And the guy's like, wow, I've never been to Heights, but I've heard some really good things. So my brother gives him the business card that he got from the Heights manager. Good thing he didn't have a picture on it, because he would have said, I didn't know Brad Pitt was the manager of Heights. So then he goes, okay, well, come on with me. And we went to some like secret cave in the back, and they had super reserve wines that they'd made from, it's a small winery, so they probably only have, 3 different labels. And then one of them was more expensive, and this was the reserve of the expensive ones, which means, $500 bottle of wine, whatever. My brother likes that crap. I don't. I'd rather drink a $50 bottle of wine, which is still kind of expensive. But I can't drink, so I have to sip, which is really embarrassing. So we went back there, and he like wraps it up. He's like, we won't taste it now. This is my gift to you. I know how it works. When I come into Heights, you'll do the same thing for me. So we tasted a little bit more wine, and we were leaving. We got to the rental car, and like me and the other 2 guys were like, we saw what happened. We didn't say anything, and we were kind of laughing, but you can't really laugh out loud. We go back to the car, and we're like, oh shit, what are we gonna do? My brother was like, what are you talking about? And I was like, we can't take the bottle. And the other 2 guys were like, yeah, we can't take it. And Andy, that's my brother, was like, what do you mean we can't take the bottle? We're like, no, we feel too guilty. All 3 of us, like, and I remember this was the quote of the day. How do we make this right? And I was thinking, you already pulled off a stunt that was almost as funny as Sideways by accident. You accomplished it. Now we got to go give the wine back. So we started driving. Like we drove, and we started driving like aimlessly, arguing in the car. We're like, what are we going to do? We've got to make this right. And so me and the other guys were like, we'll just take the bottle back, and we'll say that it's corked. Or we're going to say you got hit by a car taking the bottle back out, and you died. And we feel really bad. Like we had all these little plans. Our brother just keeps driving, and he drives all the way back to the hotel, and we're like, let's mail it to him. And then my brother's like, no, I'm just going to get back home to St. Louis, and then I'm going to mail him a check. I'm going to mail him a check for $500. And so the rest of us were like, that's fine. We get back there, and waiting in the hot tub is the chick. So we tell her the whole story, and we're like, oh shit, why did we tell her that story? We're going to get in trouble. And then luckily she quit her job like the next day. She was in vinterology, whatever the wine program is. It's in San Francisco. There's probably a lot of them getting a master's degree in winemaking. It's not really sommelier. It's the process of winemaking. It's more like an ag degree. And she quit and she went there, and I talked to her like for the next 6 months. And we talked about what she was doing. And I was always checking, like, did you go back to that winery? And then I remember one time in the end of 6 months, I asked her, I said, something about whether she went back there, and I think she remembered it kind of. And I said, "Do you by any chance know, like maybe you got a check for $500?" And of course, no. And I called my brother when I thought of it, and I was like, "Did you send that check?" And he goes, "Check for what?" I was like, "The fucking bottle of wine you stole, man. Did you send the $500 check to that guy?" This makes us sound like nice people. We're not. If we'll get to the Vegas story, you'll know we're not nice people. That was a nightmare. And so I was like, "You got to send him the check." And he's like, 6 months later, I kind of don't even remember. You gave him the business. Oh yeah, the business card. So nothing came of that one. The girl from Pine Ridge, that was a piece of work. That one is a funny story too. I ended up going back to see her. Somehow I brought a girl bodybuilder that I used to work out with in Houston, and they got in a fist fight, and we all got kicked out of one of those boutique restaurants in Napa. They're something mustards. And it was like a famous, small, homegrown restaurant inside, not in Napa City. That's ghetto. Outside of Napa City on the main highway. And they were rolling around, breaking bottles of wine, fighting. I don't remember why. And I just remember I drove all the way from Houston to San Francisco and then, Napa with this bodybuilder. No idea why. Dumbest idea ever. Probably didn't have a brain in her head. That's a stereotype. And then I drove back alone. So I don't know if she must have gotten on a plane or something and been like, I can't take it anymore. You got me in a MMA Ronda Rousey fight with some girl. Anyway, that's the end of the story. Feel free to watch Sideways. I really think there's a lot of not too subtle but interesting thematic stuff going on. We can talk about that later with Philosophy of Art on a more academic video. Maybe this isn't academic. This is how my brother gets me in trouble and makes me feel guilty. And we did live out Sideways. We just lived it out in a different way, obviously. But the movie, I always tell people, like, thematic stuff in movies and films isn't that easy to understand. Like, it isn't, you feel it, but you don't understand it. And like, as a writer, you want to understand it or you can't create it. And so I try to tell people, like, there's a difference between kind of feeling the theme and understanding the theme. And so if you really break down Sideways, it's about mortality. But if you read quotes online, you get the dumbest stuff. Like the movie's about, there was a quote on Reddit, Payne crafted an incredible film that deals with depression and loneliness. Really? Like, those are attributes of Miles's character, but that's not the theme of like, no one seemed to even understand the basics. Like, over the top Pinot conversation on the porch about how Pinot is complex, goes down, has all these unique, haunting notes, but goes down quick. Like your life, especially if you're an interesting, kind of depressed, philosophical guy. I'm not talking about me, I'm talking about Miles. And how you are kind of sad seeming, dark, but brilliant. I don't know about brilliant. But that your life goes up, you get better, you try to succeed, you don't. That's the other theme of the movie. And then you go down quickly, just like a bottle of wine, and you kind of need to peak. And that was the point about him drinking the wine at the end. So watch Sideways. We'll have another show about Fight Club. It's a lot more academic. And that's the take. Thank you for watching Storytime, and thanks for watching in general. Bye.